What is the fastest way you've seen a leader destroy the execution capability of their team?
Okay, so I've seen that in the military, and again, I don't want to just sit here constantly putting the military on a pedestal. I mean, I am who I am for all of my experience, but the military is like any other organisation. You get quite a spectrum of different leaders, and don't forget, I was in the military for 28 years. So in that 28 years, I've seen toxic leadership. Toxic leadership is unequivocally the fastest way to destroy any ability of execution in an organisation. So I'll give you the context of it. I'm obviously, I'm not going to give names or anything of that nature, but the outcome of it is where in the military, one of the things that we thrive on and we instill in all of our, right from grassroots all the way up, is a thing called mission command and decentralised decision making. So the pretense of that is kind of like, your commander gives you the intent, and as a sub-commander, you'll then take that intent and you can actually determine, right, what is it that I need to, what do they want to achieve, and what do I need to do within this in order to help achieve that? What do I contribute to it? And there's a whole thought process behind that. Where you have a toxic leader, you have the challenge of taking away that ability to think on your feet and make decisions. One, you become probably dictatorial and you tell people precisely what it is they're doing with no room for maneuver. Two, there is a blame culture that when something does go wrong, and we had a phrase in the military that no plan survives contact with the enemy. So shit hits the fan, and it hits the fan hard. If you make a decision and you get it wrong, things go wrong, but it doesn't necessarily mean there's a blame culture. It's kind of like, okay, we can reevaluate and determine what went wrong and how we could do that differently. But the other side of when things go wrong in that respect is when there is blame. So suddenly, a toxic leader will absolutely look to blame, to offload any accountability for themselves. Now, thankfully, I've only experienced it probably twice in 28 years. I think in the cases that I did experience it, there were lessons for me personally that I was taking away in insofar as to shape myself as a leader. You see it in business. I haven't seen it with clients that I work with. I have seen it with clients I work with where they have had people within the organisation that fall into that category. A level of toxicity in their approach, where they're putting their ego and their personal biases over that of the organisation. So that level of leadership can be they can wreck and ruin an organisation. If you're a business and you've got somebody like that fits that characteristic, that description, Jim Collins says it best in the book Good to Great. One of the things he talks about in the book is actually, where you've got somebody who's a bad apple, within the business. Mm-hmm. If you put a bad apple in the fruit bowl, what happens?
Goes rotten.
Everything in the fruit bowl goes rotten. So you rot the entire team. And the epiphany for most business owners is when that happens, suddenly, if they get to the point where actually you got to go, it lifts a massive weight. It's kind of like a parting of the clouds, and daylight comes through. But most business owners suffer that. They will suffer somebody who's toxic or borderline toxic, a non-performer and low values in their business. So those situations, those circumstances, and I get told off by HR for this all the time. But if you've got somebody that is, and here's the interesting point: you can have somebody who's a high performance, but they've got really low values, so they're not really a team player. And there will be things that they do that that's where this toxicity can live. And I just say, actually, if you find that, those behaviours, you've got to shoot them in public. So let me be clear on this. It's not necessarily about taking a slice off the individual, but you raise the behaviour that isn't a fit. Does that make sense?
So you tell people publicly, is that right?
If needs be. Mm-hmm. If needs be. But it's not, you're not taking apart somebody's identity.
Right.
What you're doing is you're calling the behaviour.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I understand.
So if the behaviour is wrong, that's what you call them on.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by shooting them in public. I think some people, don't sit comfortably with that. But, as a manager, as a leader, as a business owner, those things are, incredibly important to do because it sets a precedence.
Yeah.
If you don't, and the behaviour goes unchecked, you create toxicity. So I think it's it's a really interesting challenge for business owners. And right now, I think if business owners or CEOs or managing directors are watching this and they've got that person, they will absolutely know. They will be able to actually point a finger at who that person is. And then they need to do something about it.